right. Front squat, everybody pretty good on that?
No,
Nope.
that one, I would like the kids to demo that one.
All right.
Because I've seen, like the track, I've had 5 different versions of front squat going on. I want to know which
All right.
one.
Yep, let's have our athletes come on up. Just grab a station here. Coaches, if you want to kind of spread out along here. Okay? So, yep, just grab a station. All right. So the big thing, front squat. The weight should be on your shoulder. I'm not going to be a stickler. I don't care how you hold on to the bar with your hands. Whether you have a hanging grip or you cross the arms. Okay?
But it should be on your shoulders.
The weight's still on your shoulders.
So it should not be sitting
Nope,
here.
nope. You'll be. Excuse me. Let me do this real quick. So I'm used to the hang clean grip, so I'm here. To get used to that, we used to do training where I had to leave it on my shoulders. Yes, the bar is against my neck, but I'm pulling my chin back to maintain neutral spine anyways. So I can go here and I can front squat, I can keep my elbows up. Now, some athletes, the shoulders and lats we need to work on, just go here, okay? Again, this isn't loading up the spine like you would on a back squat. Keep it a lot lighter. Great. Thank you. So again, I don't care how you're holding the bar, just it's gotta be resting on your shoulders.
Adam.
I know a lot of athletes will start complaining about that. Big
Go on the
thing is to
inside.
eventually find a spot where it gets comfortable. Just like back squat, just like everything, don't complain about it. All right? So, if you guys want to grab a hold, however you feel comfortable with the bar. If you do the hang clean grip, I call it, your elbows have to stay up. You drop your elbows, you're using your upper body to hold the weight. Okay? Now, feet should be slightly wider than hips. Okay? Shoulder width, slighter. Okay? As you sit down and back, keep your abs tight, drive through your heels. Okay? Good. And then back up. Big key to watch here are the athletes' low backs. If you start to see hips rolling under and tucking, they're going too low for whatever their range of motion is right now. Now you might have athletes that are real tight, they get to here and they're starting to round already. So we got to work some mobility on that.
We have a
keeping them
lot of
upright.
those, Coach.
So that's where we'll get into a lot of like the mobility, hip flex, stretching on hip flexors, hamstrings, quads, stuff like that. But a bit also abs, keeping core tight, bracing, rack the weight, bracing your abs when you squat. Okay, up and down.
You want their upper leg to be parallel to the floor?
Ideally, and
You
yeah.
don't want it to go beyond that.
Don't really need them to go beyond that. Unless you are a catcher in baseball or softball, you're typically not in that position. And if you're in that position, it's not because you're being a successful position there. Okay? I always think of like football. If you're gonna make a tackle, I don't see many guys tackling like this. I see a lot more guys tackling here. So I want you to be able to decelerate, control the weight down, and then redirect it up to build that strength.
You want, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
you want the knees, I mean, sometimes, if the knees go out, they need to go directly
Knees
in front of them.
Either-
They-
over ankles or slightly out is much preferred. That's the other big thing. We do not want knees caving in when they're squatting. You'll see them go down and they'll start pressing up and knees will cave in. So that means we need to work on hips a lot also. And that's where some of the auxiliaries will come in as far as hip work. You can do a lot of hip work with them. Female athletes, I just typically add a few more exercises for hips just because of the anatomy. So the other thing is we don't want to push knees forward over our toes. So I always say your feet should be flat on the floor. You should be able to wiggle your toes in the bottom of your squat, okay, a little bit. So that way you're sitting back and your knees aren't going forward. That's where you get the kids with that knee pain because they're pushing into it and putting all the pressure into the backside of their kneecap.
Like 70-30, like 70% of your heels and 30% of your toes.
Yeah, and I always tell everybody, like basically between the ball of your feet and your heel, that's put the pressure all through there. You do that, you're typically gonna be using the backside, which is much stronger. So, Again, if you guys want to just quick rack it and do another rep or two for me, I'll just watch here and see if there's little things I can pick out just on some of our athletes here. Don't go quite so low, you feel like there's rolled under you. So go down, tight abs right there.
Get your elbows up.
Yep, elbows up.
So like I see like,
Don't go quite so low and keep your heels on the ground.
how should Drew, I mean, you said something about like the elbows. Like,
Yep, you gotta keep it.
so if he can't get him up there, should he?
Yeah,
This one I can't, but.
yeah. And if you need to, like I said, cross them. Otherwise, you could always grab towels and hold them. I've had guys that had wrist and elbow issues that they couldn't get into this because they broke their elbow when they were a kid and they just physically wouldn't have been that far.
Then what'd you do with towels?
So we'd take towels and I'd wrap it around the bar and then they just hold onto the towel here in this position so it opens up the joint so that it's not such a steep angle. So that way their flexibility isn't an issue. Just like those little towels that you have for cleaning. The weight's still on your shoulders, you're not holding it with the towels. You're just giving them a longer distance here.
Oh, that way, I get you. now.
Yep.
I get you, okay.
So, or the old lifting straps, you can wrap them around and then they can hold on to that. I've used that too.
Okay.
But yeah, so the number one thing in any squat, the reason why everybody is so afraid of it is back pain, back problems. And that's where just watching you, obviously if you see that big rounding, we need to just correct technique. You see the big thing is once you get an overarch, because you say stick your chest out, stick your butt out, and then you get here, we get way overactive in our backs, and then you start having tight backs, back spasms, stuff like that. And then the other one is when you get down, your hips tuck under you. They call it the butt wink, if you want to look it up. So making sure, if you notice some of those things in the athletes, just tell them, a lot of times it's keeping your core tight while you're doing the squat all the way up and down.
Is the front squat better than the back squat then, as far as?
What I use the front squat as a starting point, like, kids that never have lifted before, just do bodyweight squats, have them transition to putting a bar on, front squat, working towards a back squat. Because we're actually gonna be putting a load on the spine, I wanna build to that. I don't wanna just jump there right away. Again, that way, the athlete's got some steps they can take, and or, maybe they're that elite athlete, it's in season, you can just tell they're fatigued. Back them down, have them go back to a front squat, lighten up the load, work technique, a little bit more explosiveness.
Coach, our guys that work out with a power lifter in town have always, and Andrew, you used to, they always squat down with their butts almost touching the floor. Why do they do that then?
Typically in powerlifting, it's because the distance you have to make the bar travel. So when they Olympic lifting, when you get from here, they just want to get the bar about this high, right between here. Then they just want to drop under it and front squat it
Just
up.
to get used to doing that?
Yep.
Okay.
So a lot of times, to have them train, they'll have them clean it and then front squat as low as they can, up and down.
I heard a speaker speak once also at a clinic about if you don't get low enough, you don't activate your hip flexors, and that's why we're telling kids to get lower. Have you heard that, or is that something that guy was wrong on?
I don't see how it'd be hip flexors. I would say, the lower you go like that, the more it's gonna have to be glutes, hamstrings, and then as you get up into it, your quads. Because you think about it, you're gonna get your hip flexors once your quads activate, because that's just part of your hip flexors.
Just
But
last year, Coach Stelmont brought in, we started asking our kids to go lower, didn't we, Adam? Just get, except for the big glutes like you.
yeah.
And we said just get
Yeah.
lower, because he had heard something too about speed development, getting lower.
Yeah, if a kid can get low and they have their back's nice, in good position, they're safe. I've never stopped somebody from going low.
Okay.
I just will watch kids and notice, your hips are starting to tuck under you. That's where your flexibility is either coming into play or your core control is coming in. Or you're just tired and fatigued. I've had really good lifters, you give them a fourth set and you're pushing it, or fifth set, depending on what you're doing, just doubles and triples, going pretty heavy. All of a sudden your technique goes, hey, that's where you stop. So, and I've just, since I've gone to this, because I used to be, get your butt down, get down and, try touching the ground, but a lot of the tightness in the backs or any of that type of stuff has gone away by not worrying about the depth right away. also ultimately too, by the time they get through this, they'll have good mobility and good core control, and they'll be able to get nice and low, and parallel, maybe even slightly below parallel for you.
So basically, that's why it's a phase one, so we
Yep.
don't, so if a kid can't do this, they should not be going to a back squat then?
Yeah, I would hold off on that, because we don't want to be putting weight on the spine generally, and then having poor mechanics. So that's why I like the front squat building up, to get them to a back squat. Don't get me wrong, a back squat has been shown a lot of great benefits to it as long as it's done correctly. That's the big thing, is you start getting not shady, but poor technique to it, little things here and there, and over time it builds up.
Okay.
That's where we have issues, so.
All right.
All right, so after back